Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Brand Power Analysis. Today I have Adam. Adam, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, my name's Jahn. I just finished a 9-year career in professional soccer, and I'm looking to make the move into the business world. So I'm excited to talk to you today about, the experiences and what I've been going through over the past few months.
Beautiful. So why don't we start off by you 9 years? That's crazy. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about your journey as a player?
Yeah. So my career started back in 2013. I played 4 years at Stanford before that, and I was drafted to the San Jose Earthquakes as a rookie and had a pretty good rookie year. Scored some goals, had some fun, and that kind of positioned me to keep going in the sport. It's pretty difficult to win or earn another contract after your first one. So I was really grateful to be able to do that. So after almost 4 years in San Jose, I was traded to Columbus Crew and played there for a couple years as well. Then I was brought down to Phoenix. That's why I'm in Phoenix right now for the 2019 season. We had a blast during that year, broke a bunch of records, and after a good year, I was acquired by Atlanta United and went over to Atlanta for the COVID year, 2020, which was very challenging, as we all know. But yeah, I was playing in Orange County this past year in 2021, when I tore my ACL in the first game of the season. And so life comes at you fast sometimes. And since then, I've been rehabbing. I'm still rehabbing to this day, 9 months later, and thinking about the next thing. So I'm excited to get into some of the details of that.
Yeah, so you're in Phoenix now. How was it? How was it going from team to team? What was your impression on being able to play for multiple teams?
Oh, I loved it. It was a great way to experience the country and live in different places, completely different. I grew up in the Bay or Northern California, but I lived in the Bay Area for 8 years, and then was traded to Columbus in the Midwest, where I'd never considered living before. But soccer takes you to amazing places. So Atlanta was a challenging climate as well. I'd say more challenging than Phoenix even.
Yeah,
I'll take the Phoenix summers over the Atlanta swamp humidity. So
that's what I tell everyone. I'm here in Phoenix as well, and
yeah,
we have that dry heat. And anytime I go to the other side of the country, it's that humidity. Even if it's like 60 out, I'm like, I can't handle this. I just can't do it.
just can't escape it. It just sticks on you every time you go outside. But anyway, soccer has taken me to amazing places. I've met amazing people. I met my fiance in Columbus.
Oh, nice.
And so dragged her down to the desert, and she agreed to come with me. So that was a good sign. But yeah, it's been amazing traveling the country, playing in all these cool cities and developing these unique experiences that are very, I rely on constantly from the lessons I learned.
Yeah, the lessons you learned. And what would you say the most, difficulties have been for you? I know you had to go through the rehab and stuff, and you're kind of still going through that. But what do you feel like? And funny enough, I actually twisted my ankle. I still play rec league soccer. So I twisted my ankle about a month ago, and that was about a month and a half ago. And even that took me almost 2 months to heal,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can understand, especially as you get older, the injuries and stuff like that. But what would you say the most difficult situations you've dealt with as you've been going through this transition from sports to potential business owner or career?
Yeah, those are. I have a bunch of thoughts that come up. First off, the hardest thing when you're injured is to not come back too soon.
Yeah,
you get really antsy and want to get back on the field, but you usually just end up shooting yourself in the foot. Mm-hmm. So as hard as it is to have patience, you definitely want to give that some time. going back to like the traveling and playing, I think one of the most challenging, things I experienced non-soccer related, well, non on the field related, was when I was traded to Columbus. It was a 2016. I was called in on a Thursday. I remember it because it was All-Star weekend for MLS. And the GM was calling me, and he had never called me before except for when he drafted me 3.5 years ago. So I knew something was up. So they called me into the office and told me that they were trading me to Columbus, thanked me for the few years I'd been there. And I was on a flight the next morning. So I had packed up all my stuff and immediately just left the Bay Area where I lived. I've lived in California my entire life. I was so comfortable. To this day, I don't think I would have left California had I not been traded. And I can't thank that experience enough. It kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone and threw me into this unknown world, new city, completely different part of the country, far away from all my family and friends. So I really appreciate that, being forced into the unknown. And that's kind of something I seek now as I go from soccer into the job hunt and job search is, you don't really stretch yourself if you're in your comfort zone and doing things that are easy to you and that. It's when you're kind of out of your element when the real growth happens. So as uncomfortable a feeling as that is, I kind of seek those out. Not because I enjoy abusing myself or anything, like doing that to myself, but because that's where growth happens. And you want to be a little outside your comfort zone, not too much, or you'll be out of your element, but you definitely want to find that happy place in between discomfort and comfort.
And if you're not learning, you're not growing, right? And it's all part of the grit, I think, too, that you guys have as athletes is you've been through so much positive and negative. It's very similar to the business world in general, and learning from those failures, getting back up and keep moving. I mean, the fact that you had to get up the next day, I couldn't even. I mean, me and my wife talk about moving to another state all the time, but we don't have enough, guts to do it in a way. And the fact that you had to kind of jump up and leave and take that, I think, especially for the fans out there that watch this stuff, understanding the dynamics that go into the back end of the stuff that you have to go through as you're making these transitions. And so what are some of the things that you're kind of doing to overcome some of these challenges that are associated with this transition to the business world?
That's a great question. A lot of it has to do with branding and, an area you're very well versed in, but I've been very conscious of building my brand as more than an athlete, as someone that has all these skills in this professional sports world that, they're not specific to any industry I'm going into, but nonetheless, they're life skills that apply and translate. So I'm focused on building a brand and communicating that to anyone that I come across, that I have these skills that I developed in pro sports and that they'll be valuable in the business setting. So my big focus has been LinkedIn and networking as much as I can on LinkedIn, writing about stuff and just talking to anyone. A big challenge has been removing my ego out of it because, as a soccer player, as an athlete, the ego is kind of a double-edged sword. You need it for success, but you don't want it to get too big. And going into this new unknown world of looking for a new career at the age of 31, I definitely have to remove my ego from the equation. It just gets in the way, and just be a sponge, have the beginner's mindset, and just be humbled. And it's been a very humbling experience thus far, but I've enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah, one thing that I'm learning recently as a business owner, and being a business owner, I feel like we're learning stuff new every day. We're doing stuff. It's one of the reasons I became a business owner, because I love the challenge of learning new things every day, expanding my mind. And one thing I'm learning right now is really the starting over aspect, with all the knowledge you've had in the past. And so they say it takes, half the amount of time to get rid of a habit than it does to build a habit. So, going in through that, it's challenging, as you said, like trying to get rid of that ego and saying, hey, how do I be a little more selfless, but still understand that the ego is needed? I talk to my wife all the time about ego, and she's very against ego. She, looks at it from a different mindset. But I always have to explain to her that, once you get good at something, you have to have some sort of, ego there. You have to. It helps with the confidence. It helps with the pushing forward in your expertise. And so don't get rid of the ego 100%. I'd still use that to your advantage, so to say. So as you're building your personal brand, what are you? Do you have any sort of direction? Are you starting to kind of push into passions that you've related to inside the game that you're trying to push to outside the game?
Yeah, good question. Good question. So later today, I'm submitting my last work in my master's in data analytics.
Nice.
So one of the interests I've developed in the past few years has been data analytics. And, I was just kind of interested in statistics and using stats to drive insight. And in this day and age, that's the hot topic, big data science. It's the buzzword everyone's using. So to me, it seemed relevant. I'm interested in it, and I'm a technical guy, like numbers a lot. So I'm excited to see how that kind of informs my job search going forward. My undergrad at Stanford was in management science and engineering. And most of my peers in that go into management consulting, where you basically called in to help fix businesses in one aspect that they're struggling in, be it, their costs are too high, their profits have slumped, or maybe they're considering going into this new sector or developing this new product. So I feel like the 2 degrees I have kind of play into that. And so I'm really excited to kind of seek roles in that area, mainly because as a soccer player and as a pro athlete and even college athletes, a lot of times you forego some opportunities in order to practice and work on your craft. It's just part of it, Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours. You got to put in the time to get good at something.
Yeah.
So a lot of people can relate to that. And it's not just in sports, anything you endeavor in, you have to put an immense amount of time in to get good at it. So you sacrifice some of the internships or job shadowing or opportunities to kind of see what else is out there in order to pursue your dream. So I did that. And the reason management consulting and just kind of business consulting in general is appealing to me is that you just get exposed to so many cool different industries and different roles, different companies. And it's just an opportunity to see what else is out there. So that's kind of my direction right now, where I'm headed. And it's cool to kind of just take a step back sometimes. Like these podcasts are kind of good opportunities to have that perspective and just kind of look back, take a big picture view of it, and just observe and enjoy it.
Yeah, enjoy it. And it's crazy you say that, because with your data analytics side, because what I've noticed and what I've seen is, that, especially growing my business, is personality types and different types of personalities and things of that nature. And I'm very analytical too. I'm very technically based, but I got my bachelor's in the visual communication side. I got my master's in the marketing side, but they're 2 very different mind spaces. And the technical side is very technical. The numbers, going to spreadsheets, looking at code, and stuff like that. And what I've seen is a lot of athletes tend to have the more creative side, use the other side of their brain. And so I think it's really awesome that you've been able to find your Zen zone in kind of that technical side, and being able to try to leverage something that you're passionate about in helping businesses. Now, with what you were saying about helping businesses, what are some of the things that you see? And let's go back to what I was kind of talking about with the your data analytical side, and trying to find your direction on that. What do you feel like makes you as an athlete great at going, we'll just say, the direction that you're trying to go at? I know you haven't really found a direction on business or on a career yet, but what do you think makes you as an athlete, or even athletes in general, just great at kind of taking that step towards that direction?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are a lot of applicable skills that we learn as athletes that apply to being a business owner or seeking work in the business setting. One big one for me was teamwork. I love working in teams. It's, the only kind of setting I know pretty much. And, when you're as part of a team, for instance, in management consulting, you're sent off in teams to go help your client. Mm-hmm. It's very translatable, and you're gonna be met with challenges and obstacles you have to overcome, and you have to work together and rely on each other in order to achieve that goal. Now, same with building a business. Like, well, if you're doing it alone, you're not ever really doing anything alone. You might be the only person working on your business, but you can't do it alone. You need to rely on others, and have those relationships and offer value in order to get value in return. And I kind of liken that to being part of a team. You have to be cooperative, and you have to work well with others. And you learn those skills through teamwork when you're growing up playing sports, or when you're doing activities in school that involve teams. There's so many examples that translate into teamwork, and how teamwork is so important to success in any type of business, whether you're a business owner or an employee. So I think that's a huge one, teamwork. Secondly, I think, being resilient and setting goals is something you do as an athlete. And I assume many people do it in all walks of life, but you have goals and aspirations. As a team in soccer, we would set them at the beginning of the season for our team, what we wanted to accomplish that year. And me personally, I would do it on my own, what personal goals I'd like to achieve. Same goes for business. There's business goals you want to meet. You want to hit certain thresholds. You want to make a certain amount of money. You want specific goals to achieve. Now, as an employee, those goals are set for you by your company, but as a business owner, you set those goals, and they give you the direction, and you're motivated to hit them and overachieve and knock them out of the water. So having those goals as a direction is so important, and it kind of realigns you if you get out of whack. Where resilience comes in is, it's not a straight line to those goals. It's a roller coaster. It's not easy. It's not going to go in a straight line. So having the resilience to know that, and, not get discouraged when it doesn't seem like you're on the right track in a direct line to your goal. If you kind of know that it's not going to be a direct line, it's kind of half the battle right there, because you're ready for it. You have the right expectations, and you don't get discouraged as easy. But those times when it does get discouraging, you just believe in yourself, have some grit, know that you'll get it done. If it's important enough to you, you'll get it done. So teamwork and resilience and goal setting are huge things I've learned through athletics that will greatly apply to any type of business role, be it business owner, entrepreneur, or employee. I think those skills that I developed will translate great to any of those, because there's skills that just you need in order to succeed.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think, as a business owner myself, and one of the reasons I got into this field to begin with was because I saw the passion and the grit, of athletes, and what you guys go through as you go through a certain part of your life, and even to get there, even to become a professional athlete. I mean, what is it? 1%, make it there. And so the fact that you made that 1%, it's very similar, to business. And once you're in business, you have certain pain points very similar to, you're a rookie and you're going to be learning different things compared to when you're on one team and you're building teamwork with one team. And then when you're building a team, and like right now, for instance, where we are at in our business is I'm really focusing a lot on the team stuff and really trying to build that collaboration and my mindset is shifting, it shifts, it's all about, now I'm, instead of, us really focusing on, bringing in an income, it's much more so, how do I help my employees build a solid future and, foundation for themselves, and how do they learn and grow and build those passions as we continue to grow the business. And so I agree with you. Teamwork is a huge part to play with it. And I think that kind of goes into my next question is the opposite. And I think that's, what do you feel the struggles are? Like, what do you feel like some of the struggles that athletes may go through as they take that transition into careers or being a business owner outside the game?
I'd say the biggest struggle I've faced or I've noticed through this transition is just the new setting that I'm in as an athlete, and even in the college level and pretty much any level. You're in this structured environment where you have the coach or the organization, and there's all these protocols and just a way of doing things that that's all you grew up in it, you played in it, and everything's kind of aligned for you. It's all easy. Your tasks, what you're supposed to do and how to do it, what it takes to get good at it. And so there's that knowledge of what you need to do. Whereas you go from that setting to you're thrown into this new unstructured area where you're looking for a new career and you've never been in this position before. And it's going back to the uncomfortable feeling. It's extremely uncomfortable, and it's not something you enjoy at first, but you learn a lot about yourself when you're in that space. So I'd say the biggest challenge I've faced moving from a career in sports to now seeking a new career is just going from that, daily, weekly, monthly habit or routine that I had, that was all I know. And then being thrown into this new unstructured reality where I create the structure. And I've learned a lot through that. I've learned how to kind of operate in this uncertain zone, if you will, where all the leadership and initiatives coming from me. I'm not being told what I need to do to succeed or like how to get better at sports. It's me reaching out to people, asking for help, and just all these new ways of surviving. And like I said, it's very uncomfortable, but it's also kind of exhilarating and exciting. So I'd say that's the biggest challenge I've observed so far.
Yeah, I've noticed through me growing, what I'm trying to do and working with athletes and doing stuff like that you guys have that you have all the people that help you with training, you have all the teammates, you have game plans. And I see a lot of athletes that will come to me, for instance, and asking for our help. And one thing that I tended to notice is they don't go through similar pain points as, existing business owners go through for their first 3 to 4 to 5 years. And so athletes then tend to come out and they tend to be put in this position where they're like, all right, well, now I have to kind of learn all this stuff that all these people did over the last 5 years, but they also have the investment to put forward to kind of push their business to the next level sooner. And so I would really say, like you said, like enjoy the exhilaration, enjoy the growth and what you're trying to do. And just don't overwhelm yourself, just kind of go with it and enjoy the learning. Like you said, it's all about learning. It's all about stuff. And you already seem like you're very big on teamwork. And so I think that teamwork is a huge part of it. If it be, a company that's working with you, or if it's bringing in your own employees, whatever it is, that's what makes the world go round. And that's what I have to explain to a lot of the athletes that we talk to is, hey, look at your team, look how many people it took to, score that goal or make that deep. I was a defender, and I play defense myself. And I would always get down. I think I would every time a score was goal was scored or whatever. And I always get down like it's my fault. I'm the stopper. I'm the one right there in the middle of the diamond. And I would always, put myself down. And, I'd have to be other teammates that would come to me and say, like, well, we weren't scoring, so,
it's not the end of the world. And you learn that's a great point you make. And you learn this, and it shouldn't apply in every sport, but especially in professional sports, but you got to have a short-term memory. You can't be thinking about an error you made 5 minutes ago. That's not helping you. That's only going to hurt you and distract you from the game. The game doesn't stop. Same thing in the business world. You make a mistake. Yeah. You can't just like ignore it. You learn from it, take something that will help you get better, and you leave it. You can't think about it. You can't dwell on it. And so it's just like little tidbits like that apply so well to the business world.
Yeah.
That's a great point you make.
And it's funny you say that, because I look at like a lot of games I watch, and when a team starts, and that I think that's the whole point of home field advantage, is because what ends up happening is you make that error 5 minutes ago, it starts to dwell in your mind, and the next thing you know, it dwells in the whole teammate's mind, your whole team's mind, and then that's how teams come back, or that's how teams end up losing. And of course, there's other things in the mix, but it's when the team's morale is down. And the same aspect with business and mindset, and being able to understand your failures and just know that, okay, how am I going to learn from this? How am I going to take this, and how am I going to apply it? And I look at my business and I go through it every day. It's very similar, the ups and downs of being a business owner. You'll be on high one day, you'll be on low the next. And one thing that I have to keep telling myself is, as I'm taking this next stage in my business, is I have 5 years of experience in being a business owner now. So I have to learn from all those. And I have so much experience. It's really intangible. You don't really see it, but it's there.
It's no small feat.
Yeah. And how do you
have a lot of respect for that?
Yeah. And so it's very similar. You've learned so much in the sport, and, you got your master's too. That's no small feat either, and just taking that knowledge and going out there and doing what you love to do. And I got off topic now, but I could rant all day.
Oh, that's great. No, well, what you said is spot on in terms of it's how you react in the situation. Going back to what you said about, well, you get scored on, do you mope and complain about it, or does that light a fire under your butt and get you going, and you score and tie it back up, And if you take that and apply that into business, where if you're met with something that doesn't go your way, or something even out of your control, any type of thing that comes up, because it's not like things don't come up, and you have a choice on how you react. Sometimes you can't control what happens, but you control how you react to what happens. And I think the latter, choosing to have that inspire you and motivate you is a better way to respond than dwelling on, it sucks. I mean, you lose a client, or some issue comes up in one of your revenue streams, it sucks. No, I'm not going to say you enjoy that, but you got to react in a way that will serve you in the future and not dwell on it.
Yeah. And it's funny how the world works. I'm going through a situation right now, which I won't really talk about, but within the business, but things happen for a reason, and the mindset shift of just staying positive and pushing a certain direction, tends to work out. And that's, and I don't want to get all geeky on people. And that's why one of the reasons I feel like there is some sort of, what is one of those theories? What is it? The Matrix kind of theory where we're all living in a digital world or whatever like that. So it's why
simulation.
Yeah. Emulate. Yeah. That's why I kind of feel like we're in that kind of situation sometimes, because I'm like, as I'm growing my business or even in life, you put your mind to something, you can get there. And it's funny how certain things will pop up that had nothing to do with the direction we're going and may not even relate to, you going that direction, but it's the positive atmosphere and the little things that happen over time in different intangible situations that tend to kind of get you there, like meeting a certain person or selling a client a certain way or growing a business a certain way. And at the same time, you've lost your biggest client or something like that. And you're like, wow, this never happens ever, but somehow it happens at the same time, so
yeah.
It's one of those weird things in life that it's like, hey, as long as you're positive and yes, everyone's allowed to get down. There's nothing wrong with beating yourself up and a little bit here and there and getting down, but
you just don't want to stay there.
You just don't want to stay there. And it's hard. And that's why mindset and one of the reasons I still play soccer, even though I'm 30, almost 37 now, and I feel like I can't run like I used to anymore. Is it's my meditation zen. I love going out there and I love competing and I love, even though I used to be really big. My big thing was the gym. I used to love going to the gym. It was my meditation place. And now that I have kids, I just can't go as much. And so trying to find ways to keep that meditation for myself going with the anxiety and the always changing business mind. But again, off subject, but it's one of those situations where, just don't stay there, right? Just kind of find ways to always be improving yourself. And that's all I keep telling myself is my goal. My goal isn't to, have $1 million in the bank because I want to, spend it. My whole goal in my business is to eventually be able to give back. And so how do I do that? I have to have money to do that, So it's taking those KPIs, as you said, as an athlete, and it's very similar to business and finding those small goals that you can achieve and taking it step by step, right?
Yeah. You have these core values that you want to fall back on in the tough times, and you're not always going to be living ideal. Like things aren't going to go your way all the time. But when those challenges arise, you want to keep these things that we're talking about in mind. And it goes back to belief in yourself that you can overcome anything. And it's applicable in all walks of life. So it's just good to practice it, and no one's perfect at it. I'm not, certainly. And, you just don't beat yourself up when you don't meet your high expectations. You bounce back and try again. You don't lose enthusiasm. So
no one's perfect. And that's perfect right there, is that no one's perfect. And you always have to realize that you're going to have failures and just learning from them. But back to what you kind of said about, you growing your personal brand and you starting to get into that. Like if you were to talk to some younger athletes that may still be playing professionally or are maybe in college going through the whole nil situation and moving up, right. What are some of the things that you feel like athletes can learn in regards to building their brand online?
What a question. Talk about that for hours. So you need to find, you want to be genuine. You don't want to mimic someone else. So it's a lot of soul searching and kind of just understanding who you are. And you don't have to know exactly who you are, but just like think about what you're interested in, how you like to communicate, ask other people what they think about you. I was doing this really cool program. It's a Canadian company actually called One for All, WON for all. And it's amazing. I was able to get set up with these people through the MLS Players Association. It's like a pilot program, but it literally is helping soccer players either build their brand while they're playing and develop skills and kind of have the bigger picture of like, you can't play soccer forever. That's one aspect of it. The other is actually, in my case, like transitioning from soccer to the next thing. So it's been amazing kind of going through the programs they've been putting me through. And I can send you a link to what,
Oh yeah, definitely.
more about what they do. But
love to see that.
But yeah, like thinking about who you are outside of your sport, because like you have that branding as an athlete in whatever you're doing, or in business, you have the brand, or, any hobby, that's part of your brand. But it's kind of just getting an idea of what things people think of when they think of you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very challenging process, and it's not something you can just do in 5 minutes. It's continual consistency in thinking about that, and then crafting a way to let people know the things you come up with. Mm-hmm. And the other side to the content is kind of your personality. If you're extroverted or introverted. Me, I actually am pretty introverted. I guess I would say I'm an extroverted introvert.
It's our data technology side of our brain that
so I know I'm not going to be going on Instagram stories or going live and being this bubbly personality that, is alive for the party. Mm-hmm. That's just not me. And I know that about myself. So that actually is very helpful, because that directed me to kind of targeting LinkedIn. I'm going to start writing weekly posts just about thoughts and experiences I've had as I go through this transition. So that fits more my personality. So just kind of knowing those things about yourself, and they kind of just direct you to better ways of communicating with others that comes off as more genuine, because the last thing you want to do is sound ingenuine.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if you've watched any of our YouTube videos at all before jumping on here, but if not, I totally understand. I'm not that big of a star myself, but we talk a lot about consistency, and you said at the beginning, you kind of talked about, we build brands for athletes trying to grow a business, but there's so much that relates to that, is what you were saying with the passions and the consistency. And we tend to, at the very beginning, go through something called brand discovery, where it's very similar to what you're doing now, where you have to be consistent. You have to find what you want to do. And so actually helping athletes find their identity, find what they want to do and how to write. If I have to see another athlete post a picture about the app that they're using, and all I'm knowing is, I'm like, you've never opened that app in your life. It drives me crazy. But the world, I think, with where we are in the world, is that a lot of people are used to being hard sold to. I mean, even my LinkedIn, I get so many people reaching out to me. I'll get someone reaching out to me, and I know right away, if I accept this, I'm getting a sales pitch, and it's like, it's not about that. It's about, and yet there's a time and a place for businesses to do, I'll say, cold outreach, but it's about
an artful way of doing it, though.
Yeah, there is. And it's about building relationships, giving value, as much value. I mean, God, if I have to tell you how much money I spend, a month in expenses just to try to bring as much value and stuff to my audience as possible. I mean, I do it because I know that I want to build something that doesn't really just help myself, but it helps other agencies get the value that they need from the world, and how athletes see the value in, like you said, the visual communications and the written communications, and how important that really is to the world, and to be genuine. And it all comes back to that. And I'm ranting again, but we could talk about this all day. But I like how you found your zone, and that's one thing that I would probably tell a lot of other athletes. I mean, I see a lot of athletes that are on literally every single platform, and I'm like, or they're just recycling content, putting it on every platform. And
Yeah.
I'm always like, man, focus on one or two. Where's your audience? Where do you feel like you're, and if you don't know yet, let's figure it out, or let's kind of go in and start testing, you know?
Yeah. Well, it goes back to kind of figuring out what you like to do with your time. Like
Mhm.
a good start is just think about what you spend your day doing in your free time. And those are the things you probably have interest in. So,
Yeah.
and everyone has a unique perspective and has these skills that no one else has. No one's like, you're unique. There's only one of you. And what you want to do is find what you like to do and what makes you unique, and tell the world, tell people that care about what you're doing. And so that's a good starting point. It's just kind of think about what you enjoy doing in your free time and go from there. But yeah, it's another really big thing I would tell any kind of athlete in college or professionally is just network. Start networking now. Start meeting people. Start interacting with people's content, and that's something I did not do early enough, and that's something I would advise people start doing. It's so important. That'll also help you figure out your brand.
Yeah.
You'll interact with things you're interested in. Then if you just look back at what comments you're leaving or what articles you're reading, that'll tell you right there what you like to read about in your free time. So that's so important to do. And it's something you can do as an athlete, even a student athlete, but in your free time, especially after a tough training where you're tired. I'm not saying cut out the Netflix or the Xbox, but maybe fit in a few minutes here or there to do something productive with your time. And then the next challenge is you're going on social media to interact, and you're doing something productive with it. Just don't get drawn into scrolling, going
Yeah.
on TikTok or the reels or whatever. Do it intentionally.
It's funny you say that about personalities, how we're all unique. 'Cause it was just something hit me yesterday where I was walking around and as I'm trying to, build, great brand promises for my agency and getting my employees to kind of follow these promises that we deliver to our clients. We tended to, I was just sitting there, I was walking around, and this may be the analytical side, very similar to you, but I was like, wow, looking at the world, like we live in a very special situation because every single human being is different, a different personality, different thoughts, and it's crazy how many people are. And the fact that we even have friends and we even talk to other people is very unique to me because it's like the fact that you feel like it could be just the opposite. You feel like there could be everyone in the world is repelled from each other, but people are connecting and people are growing together and finding value with each other and helping the world grow in a positive aspect. And so I think that, as you said, with social media, I think that, understand taking that, small step at a time. I mean, even as you're growing your audience, everyone goes through this. Even if you'll come up and you say, hey, these are my fan profiles. These are the kinds of people I want to reach. This is my target demo, all that stuff. You're still going to slowly get into this point where you're starting to put content out and you're going to get a different, your audience is going to change, and I also would kind of mention, it's not all about social media. Like you said, referrals, we tell a lot of our clients, hey, we'll help you with the online side when it comes to social media, website, brand, all that nifty stuff. But you still should be the one going out. And it's one thing that you have as an athlete, being able to go do public speaking or go do an event or help other athletes learn or other businesses do certain things. And that's your job. Work on the business or on the career and
Mm-hmm.
don't 100% focus on social media. If I have to see another athlete that's trying to build $1 million company by just posting on social media every other day, it's going to drive me crazy.
Well, you can see right through it. People aren't stupid. I know you didn't put any effort into your posts right there, for example. Mm-hmm. And I think keeping that in mind is that these are people you're interacting with, and, treat them as such is a good starting point.
Yeah.
Going back to what you said about, your brand evolves as you create more content and you get more directed and stuff. That sounds like spot on, because and you start anything out, you're bad at it, you can't expect to achieve your goals when you just start them, and so you gotta put out a lot of effort in order to get better at something. And as you do that, you learn better ways of doing it, and you get directed in these cool, interesting new paths that you couldn't have predicted when you started. And so what you said about kind of, you create more content and you kind of get directed towards your niche, your brand. And that's so true. And just, I think what a lot of people want to do is, they want to start something and be good at it and succeed in it that day.
Yeah.
Delayed gratification is a lost art these days.
Yeah, or a master of all. And even in business, it's something that I'd have to pivot on a little bit, because I do, as a business owner, and we're in marketing, like, I love branding. I love doing online search optimization. I love doing paid campaigns and advertising. I mean, we host websites, we have hosting, we maintain websites, we build websites. So we do all a spectrum of everything in some way, form, or another. And it took me some time to kind of say, all right, I need to step back and start to not be a master of all. And I want to be good at everything. But it's hard to sustain that and grow around that, So, I see a lot of athletes doing it somewhat too when it's coming to build their brands. I'll see athletes with foundations and an online store and, this, and I always have to go to them and be like, what's your why? Like, why would a fan want to come to your website and view your content? You have 80 things going on here. You're trying to do too many things at once.
Yeah.
And I know you want to, but let's kind of sit back and really help you define one of those. And so you can, become a master of one. And if you look at a lot of the successful athletes out there, or the successful business owners out there, or both, you'll see that they really focus on one avenue first, and then they say, okay, how can I make a secondary income come in, or how can I do that? So I think it's the same with social media. It's very similar with social media. Pick one or two avenues and go with it, and feel your audience. And then when you're ready to hire or go to that next step, start to, focus on additional platforms.
No, that's so true. And I think, some struggles that athletes might have, either starting a business or getting into a new role after their playing career, is kind of being spread too thin and trying to do a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. Whereas focusing on your strengths and a few things that you do really well. And then, I guess, for business owner, getting a team around you to do that supplement your strengths, where their strengths are your weaknesses. Or as an employee, working with others that have different skill sets than you, and doing the tasks that you're good at, and relying on them, going back to teamwork, to do the tasks that you're not so good at, So it's definitely, it's a balancing act, because we're all human, and we have many, many interests, and especially in your area, going back to all the skills you developed and things you were working on, like, you're very passionate about it, and you want to work on all of them. And taking a step back and maybe having that bigger perspective allowed you to kind of be more hyper focused on the things you're really good at, and then you're outsourcing, you're bringing in new employees or team members to help do the rest, so that you're not spread all over the place.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that I would tell all athletes as they get to that point. It's like we said earlier with teamwork in a team. It's very much similar in the business world. You need a team, like you said earlier, you need a team around you. You can't do it all yourself, or you're going to burn yourself out. I've always been a big promoter.
Or it's just not as fun. we're doing everything alone.
You get overwhelmed, and there is a such thing as 90% of businesses fail, but a portion of that percentage is due to business burnout. Like people get to a certain gap period in business and they get burnout because they're doing so much, and they just can't do anymore, and it just burns them out, and so they tend to not do it. And so how do you get past that? It's there's a mental thing to business owners as well, as you kind of, even in a career, as you kind of get to a step. So we could probably chat about this all day, and we could probably chat again sometime in the future about it. But to finish out the episode, why don't we tell people a little bit about where they can find you and how you can possibly help athletes moving forward?
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for having me on. This has been really fun. And like you said, we could do like a Joe Rogan long form 4-hour episode if we wanted to, but I won't do that to your listeners. I'll
break it up anyway.
All my social channels are AdamJahn14, but what I can do for anyone that's interested is just like you reached out to me to speak. I would love chatting with people, just hearing their story. You can learn anything from anyone. I enjoy learning about people, what makes them tick, what they're working on, what they're excited about. And then you see these connections that form as you're speaking. And this happened to us throughout the episode. And so just reach out to me if you want to chat. We're in the Zoom age where it's so easy to just create a video chat and hop on a call whenever it works, So do that, please, if you are so inclined. And then also what I've kind of learned as I've been networking and just reaching out and trying to learn as much as I can about the management consulting and where I want to go into is tap into your connections networks. So if you go on my LinkedIn and you see someone that's in a role you want to be in or at a company you want to work for, I would love to make the intro for you. And that's kind of a great way to get valuable insight into a goal you have, be it getting a new job at a company or speak to someone that's doing something that you think is so cool. It's a great way to get in contact with someone doing what you want to be doing. So that's another really good way to network, and I love to make those introductions.
Beautiful. That's great. Well said. Well, again, Adam, I want to thank you for being on another episode of the Brand Power Analysis. You're in Phoenix, and so if we ever want to, grab a cup of coffee together, I'm definitely down to do that.
Yeah, that sounds great. There's a lot of good spots around to go get a cup of coffee.
All right, man. Well, you have a good one.
Thanks for having me on.